Everybody wants to be happy. Everyone wants to be loved. All of us wish to be healthy. Everyone wants to enjoy life.
Art changes the world. It inspires people to stand up and speak up and support.
It was time and also between us we were able to.
Hi everyone, and welcome to my first episode of Chat with Monika. Today I am really pleased to welcome Ian Banyard here. Hello.
Hi, thank you for asking me to join you.
Anytime. I remember the first time we did our interview in the UK. It was on Hampton Hill, wasn't it?
It was in the forest.
Yes, in the forest. I think it was amazing. Hopefully people could hear us because I know it was a little bit windy at the time.
It was windy, yeah.
Yeah, but the nature was what we needed, wasn't it? It was just everywhere around us and we were having a great chat. So let's do it again. Perfect. So today we are going to be talking again about nature and sort of reconnecting not only with nature but with ourselves, isn't it?
Yes. I'm passionate about connecting people with nature, but what I recognized myself was when I connect with nature, I also connect with me. It's like when I'm in the natural world, all of the layers that I put on myself. I mean, this morning I've got layers on because I'm cold, but in life, I've always put covers on. I've always put a persona, a personality, or there were different versions of Ian, depending on what situation I was in. And it was only when I went into nature that I could sort of relax and say, oh, I can be me now. I guess that's why I do it so much, because the more I'm in nature, the more I'm me.
Yes, I totally agree and I totally understand, because I have to say when I lived in the UK, I went on walks and into nature, but I think when I watched one of your videos, it sort of got me that yes, I was in nature, but I wasn't with it. Because our minds can be so confusing and we can be out in nature, but we are not taking it in, absorbing it, and at the same time letting go. Is that right?
Yeah, and the thing is that the conflict comes because our body is with nature, because we are nature. Our body is immersed in that present moment. The body is always in the present moment, and our senses are looking for threats, and they're looking for what we need in the present moment. But the mind, it's amazing. The mind can travel. The mind can go to my past. It can go, way back. I'm quite old now, and it can go, and it can, because of the way my brain's wired, I can go anywhere because of my imagination, and that's both a gift. The mind is both a gift, but it's also a curse, because we can be in the present moment in our body responding to what's going on around us. But the mind, if the mind is elsewhere, it's conflicting with the body, because the body is, if the mind is thinking about something stressful, which we all can easily do these days with the media and what's going on around us, exactly now. If the mind is focused on that, the body is basically saying, what? I'm scared, but I don't know what I'm scared of, because I can't sense anything in the world around me. And the mind is overriding. It's almost like, I love making things on the computer, making images on the computer with words on it and everything. But sometimes I'll put a lovely image on and it covers up all the words I've just put up. Yes. So I have to put the image into the background and bring the words forward. And it's like my mind and my senses are like that. If I'm too much in the mind, my senses get stuck behind it. And it's like I'm not sensing the real world. I'm in my head sensing things that don't exist. And so what I do in nature is I bring my senses to the fore. I bring my senses forward. And a sense is anything that helps you navigate through the world. So the mind is just another sense in a way. It's just another sense. But it's such a powerful one, and we don't really know how to use it, that it just overrides everything. So for me, getting into nature is a wonderful way to reconnect with the parts of me that work well, and then I have to train and sort of tame my mind, and not allow it to run away too much with me. And nature's the best place to do that.
Yeah, and you said the word reconnect, which I think is just such a powerful word, because that's what we have like opportunity to do, especially outside. But not all of us know how to do it exactly because of these reasons that you just named, because our minds, our thoughts are in the way. But the truth is that we are putting it in the way. Because when we go on a walk, it's our choice to decide, I'm going to walk and not think.
Yeah.
That's why I am going on a walk into nature, because there is nothing else around me. And if I am giving the attention to the thoughts, then it's my decision to kind of follow that path. How would you recommend people to start their journey to reconnect with themselves so that they can go into nature and be with it rather than just in it?
Okay, well, one of the things I always do when I go out into and with nature is I set an intention. What is my intention? Now, sometimes my intention is to make a video. Sometimes my intention is to go out and just enjoy it for myself. Sometimes my intention is to go out and find a walk, find something I can guide others on at another date, another time. Sometimes I go out into nature and my intention is to solve a problem. So I'll go into nature and just walk without overthinking, but just allowing my mind to relax and free up, so it can maybe come up with some insight, something I hadn't thought of before. And sometimes I go into nature just to escape, just to get away from, the overwhelm of everything else. But the key thing is to start with your intention. What is it that you're going there for? One of the best ways to start that is to go out into nature, to start training your senses, to start revealing your senses, because our senses are great, but they get very murky. I used to wear contact lenses, and I used to wear them for 30 days and then get a new pair. And by day 15, they were really murky. And then by day 30, they were really, really murky. And when I put the new ones in, I could see really clearly. And it made me realize that if we don't notice, if we're not paying attention, if we're not very mindful, my lenses were getting murky. Well, my sight gets murky, my hearing gets murky, my sense of touch gets murky. I lose touch. I become disconnected, and disconnected means no connection. So I become disconnected from nature if I don't, polish my senses. So I would say go into nature with the intention of polishing, making clear your senses. And there's loads of exercises. I've got exercises that I share with people on, as you know, on YouTube and in my book and all places. I've got lots. I'm sharing it all the time, exercises. But I also say to people, adopt my exercises or just adapt them and do things. Just do. I often say, do what comes natural, because our senses are natural.
Everybody needs something else. So, you can give them kind of like a guidance, but then it's up to them how they feel about it and if it works for them or not, or if they want to, as you said, adjust it to themselves.
Yes, the people that I train to take others into nature are guides. They're not coaches, they're not teachers, they're not leaders, they're not tutors, they're not therapists, they're guides. All they're doing is suggesting and inviting and urging. That's all they do. They're not telling, they're not making, they're not forcing. And so this is the thing, it's natural. Everybody's connection with nature, I believe, is unique, like our thumbprint is, like the way our brain's wired. It's all unique to us. And therefore, you can't tell somebody what to do. And most people's minds, if they're like mine, as soon as somebody starts telling me what to do, there's a part of me, my true nature, that's going, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm just going to do the opposite, because you're being the more you force me to do it one way, the more I'm going to resist the other way, which is kind of, that's cause and effect, isn't it? That's a natural law. You push something too much that way, it's pushing back the other way. So this thing about allowing people the freedom to go into nature, and as I say, the intention is to just polish, just to train your senses, and you can do it very, very easily. One of the first things I do is I smell when I go to nature. I see what I can smell, because smell doesn't have a filter. There's no filter to the brain for smell. It goes straight in. It bypasses our filter system that we have. For everything else, and our filter system, by the way, is our beliefs. That's our assumptions and our opinions on the world is our filter system. So if you see something you don't like the look of, you can dismiss it because it doesn't fit your mindset. But with smell, you can't. If it's a bad smell, you know, that you, unless,
It's a bad smell.
you know, unless you've lost your sense of smell, actually. So this is another good reason at the moment when people are saying that with COVID, you know, a sense of losing your sense of smell is one of the symptoms. To me, go out and start, you know, using that sense of smell so that you actually get, you know, you can, you know, straight away if your sense of smell has changed in any way. And there's some beautiful smells out in the forests right now. If you go out and you know, you scrape up the ground beneath your feet and you just inhale, you're going to smell all the trillions of bacteria in the soil and the microorganisms that are breaking down all the leaves of autumn. They're breaking all those leaves down now into the soil. They're passing them through. They're eating them and pooping them, to be honest. And that's going back out into the soil, and it's releasing this wonderful alcohol. It's an alcohol that we call petrichor, which is this lovely smell, but it's alcoholic, which is why it's addictive. Once you start smelling this, and you, as you know, because you've been on walks with me, you love it so much. And you just, the first time you go, oh gosh, oh, but the next time you smell it, it's like, oh, and then you gradually become addicted to it because it's a natural alcoholic, and our brain likes it. And I think it likes it because there is health benefits in it. You know, I used to get it on my hands. I still do. I get it on my hands a lot, and then I'd touch my face or my mouth with my hands, and it would go into my mouth. I'm smelling it, so I'm inhaling it. I'm getting it on my skin, so I'm absorbing it. And it's got antibacterial properties now, according to science. So smelling is the one I would say people start with. And then listening to bird song. And one of the things scientists have now shown is that when we listen to bird song, we stimulate our parasympathetic nervous system. And that's the opposite to our sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight and flee system, which a lot of us are on because, you know, our minds are being filled with all these perceived dangers there. And as a result, the sympathetic nervous system is stimulating us to fight an external threat. And you fight an external threat by running away from it or fighting it or freezing so it doesn't see you. And so there's a lot of people at the moment hiding away, frozen, not moving, because, you know, you see animals do it. Rabbits will do it. If they can't outrun a fox, they'll freeze, and they'll actually sometimes even play dead. They'll roll over and they look like they're dead. And if a fox doesn't fancy eating a dead thing, it wants something that's alive, it'll leave them alone. A couple of minutes later, they shake, they have this little shake, and then they're up and they're running off and they're eating grass again and they're fine. So the sympathetic nervous system is fine for short periods of time when you're running away from something or you're fighting something. And at that point, what you don't need is you don't need the internal system working. And the internal system, which is stimulated by the parasympathetic, bird song, sound in the trees and the streams and even rainfall does that for us. These natural sounds, they stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is our immune system, which is our digestive system, which are the systems that feed us and protect us from the inside out. So we have a system that protects us from the outside, what's going on the outside of us, but then we have a system that's on the inside. And nature is a wonderful way to put us into the parasympathetic system, that inner system, which boosts our immune system, helps us digest all the wonderful food we should be eating, which then repairs our body and gives us energy. But if we get frightened, the body moves the energy into a fight, flee, freeze system.
Yeah, so that's why it makes us feel so good when we are in the present moment and we can hear the bird.
Yeah, because our body wants us to keep doing that. Anything we get a really good feeling. I don't mean a manufactured feeling. You know, you can get good feelings from too much alcohol and other things and chocolate and you know. It's not that feeling. It's a more of a euphoric feeling that people get when they're in a state of awe. You know, when you walk through a forest and you suddenly see the sun shining through and it's maybe golden autumn, or you look at a mountain, or you look at the sea, or you look at animals. You know, David Attenborough's programs are one of the most popular. They are the most popular programs on the planet for people, and it's because people just look at that cinematography, that imagery, and they listen to his voice talking about it in such a loving way. And it stimulates a feeling to me that is do more of this. It's a do more of this feeling. You know, it's the feeling that people get when, it's the feeling that we get when we all come together and we want to rescue something. You know, you see people come together to rescue a whale on the beach, or you see people come together to rescue people that have, you know, that have been trapped in, you know, earthquakes and things. And we get this whole body feeling of I want to do that. I have to do this. I have to watch it or do it, because it's you know, it is that feeling that to me is a direct connection to our true nature. And I felt that first when I was in my darkest place. That was the first feeling I felt by going out into nature and forgetting all of the stuff that was going on in my mind. I had that euphoric feeling of, this is beautiful. In this moment, this is beautiful. This is life. All the other stuff is of my own making. It's manufactured.
Yeah, I like what you said, because it is your moment. And when we are talking about hearing the birds and listening to them, really being there in that present moment and absorbing it and inhaling it, I actually remember recently I went on a walk, and I always feel in nature that the nature is calling me, because there was one bird that was so noisy, and I couldn't really, you know, like ignore him or not hear him, and I had to stop and literally look for him. So whatever is happening around, I feel that nature is communicating with us all the time.
I love what you just said as well, because you called the bird him.
Yeah.
You called the bird him, and even though you were saying the bird was being noisy, you liked that it was noise, because we call noise is usually something we don't like. It's connected to the word.
I know,
because noise is.
I hit my head, and I thought, oh, what's that noise?
What's that sound? That loud sound. Yeah, and what I was going to go on to say is, you created a relationship. What you were doing was creating a relationship. You gave that bird human attributes. It was loud, and it was a he, even though you didn't know that. And what's interesting is you were forming a relationship. Now that's being with nature, because you've created a relationship. You're bringing that bird through what you're hearing, and maybe sometimes we do it when we see animals behave. We bring them closer to us by connecting their behaviors, what they're doing, with us. We kind of project our own human behavior. We do it with our pets, you know. People do it with their dogs and their cats and their guinea pigs. You know, they project their own things. Oh, the dog's sad. Oh, the dog wants to go for a walk. The dog's this or that. You know, and what's lovely about that is this is how we as human beings still connect with nature. We do it through our pets. We do it through, you know, the animals we care for. And I do it with birds outside. This morning, one of the first things I did when I got up, I realized that the birds had no food. They detted all yesterday, and I went out. There were no birds about, by the way, because they'd gone elsewhere for food. But I went out, and what I do is I shake the peanuts in the bucket I have, and as soon as I shake the peanuts, I hear them. I hear the birds calling, and these are wild birds.
Now.
So we have a relationship. They hear me, and now I hear them talking about. I guess they're talking about. There's that noise we hear when that blob comes out and provides food. They don't know what I am and what I'm about, but they get excited, and within no time at all, there are squirrels there. There are, you know, rabbits come out. All different types of birds come, and I think, well, where were these birds when I looked out the window when there was no food there? Where were they? They were just resting. They were just wandering around. But as soon as they heard each other getting noisy, when they heard each other calling and everything, that was something's happening, and they all started to gravitate to where I'd put the food. So I formed a relationship with these birds, and I feel now I do it with trees. You know, I form a relationship with a tree. And I get very upset if somebody starts cutting branches off of it. You know, I form relationships with landscape, and I get very upset if someone's damaging that landscape. They're not being mindful of it. And this is one of the reasons why it's important we connect with nature. Because nature is our nature. We're connecting with nature, and we're connecting with our true nature. And in the same way we've abandoned nature and we're neglecting nature, I think we're also abandoning and neglecting our true nature. And if we disconnect from nature or ourselves, we stop caring. We're not necessarily hurting, but we stop caring. And we know that care and connection is really important for growth. You know, if you don't care and connect for young human beings and young animals, they don't grow very well. They don't develop very well, They might physically, but they don't emotionally, they don't mentally, they don't grow in that way if they're not nurtured and protected. And so to me, connection is caring. And when we care, we protect and we nurture. And I think we need to be more with nature, more with our own nature in order to protect and care for not just ourselves, but each other. Because there's a lot of people who are very disconnected, even though they're around lots of other people.
Perfect. You just literally hit it because you got straight into the point that I was going to make, and I think it's important for us to address it. How us humans can really disconnect, not only with nature, but also with ourselves. So shall we have a little bit about that?
Yeah, love to, love to.
So for me, I remember the times where I got overloaded with work. And that was just too much to really carry for myself. Now, yes, I know that we take what we can sort of manage, but at the same time, we are probably not aware of the damage that we are causing to ourselves when we are not in balance. And that was when I felt completely disconnected with work, with myself, with everything that was going on. It was like someone else was living my life, but not me. So, what's your take on it? When people really disconnect, what would you address as, a few main important factors?
Again, when we've disconnected, what we've done really is we've become apathetic. The English word is apathy. It means there's no feeling. There's no feeling there. So I've had so much feeling. Feeling angry, feeling frustrated, feeling frightened, feeling panicked, feeling overwhelmed with stress, that I can't fight this feeling and I can't run away from this feeling. So we do, as I say, what I was saying before, that some animals do, we kind of freeze, we kind of shut down. And I'm sure there's medical people that and people like that would be able to say what's actually happening in the body. But for me, I kind of like to talk in terms that I understand and that other people understand. And I think what happens is we go on to what I call limp mode. And I came across this when I had a car once. It was a really good car, and I was coming up the hill and there was a problem in the engine. And so what happened was that the mechanic told me, oh, I couldn't go over 30 miles an hour in this car for some reason. No matter how much I pressed on the gas or the fuel, I couldn't go any faster than 30. So I went to the garage, and the garage said, it's okay. The car has gone on to automatically, the computer has automatically put your car onto limp mode. It's stopping you going any faster because there's damage here. And the computer's not quite sure what the damage is. A mechanic needs to do that. So it's being cautious. It's put your car onto limp mode. And I said, well, this is really frustrating because I need to get up that hill really quickly to do stuff. And the car's not fast enough. It needs to be faster. And the guy said, well, I can take the limp mode off for you if you like, but you will damage your car. And so for me, I kind of took that idea of limp mode to be what happens to me when I get overwhelmed, when I get burnt out, when I'm working too hard, even on the things I love sometimes. I do a lot, as you know, I do a lot about nature connection, and it was only a hobby. It wasn't my job. It was just a hobby, and it's gone ballistic. But luckily, because of lockdown and COVID and everything else, my other business, as you know, with Penny, is event management. We have a team of people in corporate event management. Well, there is no corporate event management happening. It hasn't been now for maybe 12 months. Nowhere. So that work isn't happening. So it means I've suddenly got lots of time and energy for nature connection. So there is, that for me, that is a light in this darkness. But this idea of limp mode, yeah, maybe the limp mode is, I think this is what happens to people. We go into limp mode, which means we start to shut down all our ways of functioning. So the mind gets a little less sharp and quick, and we get a bit dull in the head and maybe a bit foggy. In our mind and our thinking. We kind of hibernate. We kind of, close ourselves down, go under the covers, don't want to come out. Our energy levels go right down. Our emotions seem to just disappear, because just before this happens for me, what happens is I get very irritated. I get very annoyed. I'm snapping at people, and because I've trained myself to be naturally mindful. You know, if I don't notice it, people around me will say, I've noticed you're getting overly fixated on something that's not really a problem here. It could be solved, but from your perspective, it's unsolvable. And I get irritated at that. Some people,
you can't see it at the time.
other people, they don't get irritated and niggly. What they get is they get sad and upset and cry and are looking for support from people in that situation. So we have, you know, to me, this is what I think is happening. The answer to that, for me, what I've always found is the first thing I do is I surrender. I give up. And it's the one thing we're told not to do.
I love that.
No
I
coach,
do it all the time.
no coach or business guru or no personal development and power, Tony Robbins type guy is going to go give up. They go, never give up. And for men in particular, any men that listen to this, men in particular, we're taught from a very young age that if you give up, you're a coward. If you give up, it's shameful. Now, for me, I tried not to ever give up, and I got sick and I got ill from it. What I decided to do was surrender. And surrender is a French word which means to give up or to give in. And so, but the question I always ask myself is, what am I giving up to? And what am I giving in to? Because why don't I say give out or give down? We don't say give down and give out. We don't say that. We say give up or give in. So it's interesting, isn't it? It's up and in. Now, what's up and in? To me, up is universal consciousness. Up is maybe spiritual guidance for some people. Up is God for some people. Up is, you know, something up there, my guardian angel, whatever that might be.
Which is in a way really good giving up.
It's giving up. You're basically saying, I've done as much as I can. Help me, please. Giving in for me is giving into, I now say, my true nature, because I've gone on to limp mode, probably because I've lost sight of, I've come off the path of my true nature, and I've started manipulating my being. I've started to try and be something I'm not, trying to achieve something that I'm not really wanting to achieve. Trying to be around people I'm not really resonating with, but I'm carrying out this role. I think it's important for me to please someone other than myself, and that's fine for short periods of time. But if you're doing that consistently, you're doing it out of habit. This is where we lose. We disconnect from our true nature. And so to me, it's always a warning sign when I feel the way you're describing, that I'm disconnecting from my true nature. And so what I then do is I give up, I give in, and I go for a walk in nature.
There you go.
To find, and what I say is the intention, which I started with, the intention of going into nature is to discover or rediscover or uncover my true nature in order to heal it, know it, understand it, and then release it. And I kind of regard my true nature as a wild animal. You know, the base level of my true nature is what I call the hunter. And my hunter wants to win. You know, my hunter doesn't want to lose. You know, my hunter is my temper, actually. If we take it all the way down to the bottom level, my hunter is my temper. It's my anger, it's my passion, it's that force inside me that says, no more. I don't want to do this anymore. And we are told as children that it's bad. We're told to push that down. It's bad. It's a bad temper. We're told you must never lose your temper. Now, when I've released, when I've surrendered in the past, I've got very angry. I've got very angry because things have been unfair. I've been mistreated. I've felt neglected. I felt all of these things that often people do, and directed them at everybody else other than myself. And sometimes I would get angry at myself, which was unfair because many people do. And the thing about getting angry is what you're doing is, in some ways, I often say to people, you have to lose your temper in order to learn to use your temper, because your temper is actually something that's called courage. Courage is temper. If you go back and look at the word courage, it comes from an old French word, courage, which means the inner power, the heart. Courage means courage is to encourage, means to put the rage of the heart into people. Now, the rage of the heart is passion at a mature level. When we're at our best, the passion, the rage of our heart changes the world. It inspires people to stand up and speak up and support through courage. It takes courage to do it. But we're taught very young to suppress that temper. And we never learn, if you suppress something and you disconnect from something, you never learn how to develop it. You don't even notice you have it until somebody does something one day, or the straw gets broken and you burst with rage. And what happens is everybody tuts at you, points the finger at you, condemns you, you feel shameful, so you shut it back down again. To me, this is the basis of your true nature. And if you go into nature, you will see the only time an animal in nature behaves in a out of control way, in a rage, is when its life is being threatened. So all those people now that are feeling really, really angry, it's because they're at a very deep level, their true nature thinks they're in danger of losing their life. Or losing face is the one in the modern world we have. I don't want to lose face. I don't want people to see that underneath this, I'm vulnerable, that underneath this, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't feel up to it, all of these things. And so we have to release this part of our nature. We have to release this temper, this anger, but learn to use it, transform it into passion. And I always say to people, when you find a passion, when you find a cause that's greater than your fear, you'll be unstoppable. You'll be amazing. And to me, I went through that journey. I went through rage. I went through bitter sadness. I went through just apathy, limp mode, as people talk about it. And I still do. I still do from time to time. But what I now do is what we're talking about here is I set an intention. I go out into nature and I reconnect with that part of me. I start with my hunter and I go searching. I'll go following deer tracks. I'll go, training my senses and learning. And as soon as I'm in nature, I become a hunter, and women say they become a huntress. And this does apply to women as well. Women often have thought that they're not hunters. Well, look at the wild. Some of the best hunters in the wild are the female cats, not the male cats. They just sit there yawning and stretching and nibbling at a carcass. Whereas it's the females that go out and hunt. If the children need feeding, it's no good asking the living male lion to go out and he's like, I've had mine, I'm fine, thanks. It's the female that is the best hunter when she's hunting, not just for herself, but when she's hunting for the pack, when she's hunting for her family. The male, if the male can't find enough food for the family in the wild, he goes off and finds another family. As human, and there are human beings. Men are like that. I see this in my life. There are friends of mine who I'm going, wow, their hunter is so immature. It's so immature because we can't live a life where we just look after ourselves anymore. There's 7.5 billion of us on the planet. If we just looked after ourselves, we're doomed. We're absolutely doomed. We've got to look after everyone. We've got to look after all of us. And to me, that's part of this journey into nature to discover your true nature, warts and all, the nasty bits and the nice bits, because it's all of you. It's all of you. Accept it and train it, mature it. So that's the first step. If anybody wants to know more about it, then obviously they'll have to talk to me about it. But go out and be little hunters and little huntresses to discover your true nature, so that you can then heal it, know it, and release it as you would release a captured animal. You wouldn't keep it forever locked up. Our natures need to be out there. They need to be visible. We need to be our nature. Otherwise we are going to go the way of these animals that are going extinct because we've taken their habitat away. Take our habitat away and we can't be free to follow our own nature. And this is why I think we're getting mentally ill. This is why we're getting angry and we're getting depressed. Yeah. Sorry, I went on a bit there.
That's absolutely fine. That's absolutely fine. It sort of takes me onto your project that you are doing. But first, I just want to wrap it up because all of this sort of suppressing who we really are and how we are kind of developing, evolving, and learning is is the direction towards disconnecting with
Yeah.
ourselves. So taking it, accepting it, learning from it, and exploring it is sort of the way of reconnecting and really just giving
And
in and giving up, but in
yes.
a healthy way.
Intentionally, you know, I know I'm giving up. I'm not giving up and losing responsibility. I'm giving up and I'm waiting for guidance. I want guidance from above or guidance from within. And if you're patient and mindful, patience and mindfulness, if you can be patient and mindful and just wait and stay still and keep this quiet, you know, distract the mind, send the mind somewhere else while you focus on your senses. And then you will hear what I call is my inner whisper. You know, some people's inner whisper is a shout. You know, if there's anything whispering to you that makes sense, that resonates with you, that's kind, that's considerate, that's worthwhile, that's your inner whisper. That's you. If you've got anything in your head that's shouting at you and screaming at you and telling you you're useless and you're rubbish and you can't do stuff and you don't deserve stuff, that's not you. That's somebody else's programming that they maybe shouted something at you when you were very frightened, and you've just recorded it in your head because you thought you had to remember that forever. It's just somebody was frightened and stressed and unstable and just projected all their rubbish onto you, and you just recorded it. You just stuck it in there and thought they were talking about you when actually they were talking about themselves at you.
That is very true. That is very true, and I like that. I think this is a good way, sort of like in a way wrapping it up, because it's very true that other people react to what's going on in their life.
Yes.
And not necessarily it's our fault just because we ended up being in front of them.
No.
We really speak from them out, and they need to let it out, but they don't know how. But they can't control their temper. They don't know how to work with it, how to use it. Perhaps they don't have enough tools in nature.
Yeah. Well, there is an urge. You know, that's how I discovered this. Is that when life became so much for me that I couldn't cope, I had this urge to go and live in nature. I just went, I need to go somewhere where there's no people, there's no have tos, musts, ought tos, shoulds. That I can just go somewhere and just immerse myself in something that just feels good. And I went to the Lake District, which is one of the most beautiful places you can go in the UK. And I lived there for 5 years. And I gradually crawled, you know, through a process of what I now know was discovery, was healing, a lot of healing, getting to know something. You know, finding your true nature is like finding an abandoned child years later that's grown up. You know, you find that child again, and it's like at first you're euphoric. You go, I found you. I thought I'd never see you again. I'd lost sight of you. Now I found you again. And first of all, it's euphoric. But then there's a healing, because, you know, that child is saying, why did you abandon me? And you're feeling ashamed, and you're feeling, you know, guilty because you didn't notice. And so there's that needs to be healed. That needs to be. There needs to be that coming back together and a healing, and we have that in our body. You know, if you split your skin, you're walking in nature and you're not mindful, and you cut yourself on some brambles, and you split your skin. The skin needs to heal. The skin needs to come back together, and it does. It comes back together perfectly. Our skin is wonderful. It's much better than plasters. You know, it'll come back together quite lovely, and then it heals. But it takes time. It doesn't happen straight away. It needs a good immune system. And to me, you know, when we're reconnecting to our true nature, we've got to do it with compassion. We've got to do it, you know, being kind to ourselves, and not, you know, our true nature sometimes conflicts, you know. And I have a book that's moving around me, and other people are telling me to write, which is about the conflicting elements of our true nature, because it conflicts. And that's one of the reasons why we abandon certain bits, like our temper, our hunter. We abandon it in favor of a different part of our nature, which we think, or we've been taught, is a much better part, is a more acceptable part of our nature. So we discard parts. And so those parts we've discarded often feel neglected. Some of us are very natural at doing things. We're explorers. We can just, you know, we go out and we're adventurous. but we neglect our experts because we maybe didn't do very well at school or we weren't very academic. And so therefore we neglect the expertise we have and we go, oh no, I'm not an expert. I'm not very good at things. I just naturally know how to do stuff. I just find my way by just crashing into it and seeing what I learn. Whereas actually you have an expert. You have a wonderful expert that you're neglecting. Just because the expert wasn't interested in school doesn't mean your expert isn't interested in guiding your life and ensuring that you don't make the same mistake twice and those sorts of things. So it's about healing. Really key point of this is about healing your nature so that you can get to know your nature, so that you can release your nature.
Yeah, that sounds absolutely amazing, and it is so true. Because we live in the world filled with expectations and rules and everything else. And it's not surprised that one gets lost in it. You know, one loses himself, herself, you know, and then they don't know what to do. And that's why we are here to help people to really open up and see the way that there is. And it's everywhere around us. Nature is everywhere around us, and everyone can go out.
It's around us and within us.
Yeah,
it's around us and within us. We are nature, and we've forgotten. We're nature.
Yeah, exactly. That's so true. Okay.
So even if you're I was going to say, even if you're in a city watching this, even if you're in a city, there is nature around you. There is nature if you look for it, and there's nature in the people around you. You know, and if everybody is their true nature, the cities are wonderful places to be when everybody is just releasing their true nature, playing, being community based and collaborative. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Okay, you were talking about hunters and huntresses, and I know you've got your project sort of running right now. Do you want to shortly tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, very quickly. This year I've launched a project which is basically mindfulness-based nature and forest therapy. So it's not a therapy as such; it's a therapeutic journey, and I've called it the journey. It's the journey. I've called it the journey, and it's discovering or rediscovering, and then releasing your true nature. So it's taking people through a path where I introduce to them four elements of my true nature that I connected to and I recognized when I was in my darkest place in nature. And the first one was finding myself. So there's four elements there that we're going through a program, a journey. Most people that come on the journey are explorers. You know, there are people that are lost, and the people that are lost in life, it's because their true nature, the one they're focusing most on, is the explorer. They're always seeking, and never satisfied. And so it's a journey really for those people to reconnect them to the other elements of their true nature, because you know we can't spend our whole life seeking. We've got to find. We've got to heal, we've got to get to know, form an expertise about, and then learn how to have the courage to release who we are and be who we are. You know, stand up, speak out when you see wrongs, stand up, support, and stand up for others when they need support. You know, being able to say no. You know, one of the hardest things for people to do right now is to turn around to some sort of authority and say, no, that might be right for you, it's not right for me. And to be able to stand in front of 100 people who are saying you're wrong and say, okay, I accept your opinion, but I believe I'm right, is really difficult. It's really difficult to do that in front of 2 people or even one person sometimes. So to me, this is the journey, is about that. It's about helping people to go from discovery to release in terms of their nature. It's done online. It's got it doesn't end. It's a continuous journey. People just continue to journey. They'll eventually just leave and go off somewhere else. So I've got no end date to this journey. We started it at the beginning of this year, and I've got 57 people on it from about 7 different countries at the moment going through it. Some of them are my guides. Some of them are people that I've never met before that have come onto it. And so what we do is we explore nature, and we go into nature offline, and then we come back online and we share. We share our nature. We share our experience and our connection of nature with nature together. And it's fascinating. You know, what is coming back through this group work is fascinating because there are no barriers. People are just sharing how they deeply feel about nature. We're currently on the hunter's journey in the one I'm running at the moment. And these, I'll be rolling these out. I'm going to be training other people how to run these journey programs, so that so my guides, the people that have done natural mindfulness guiding with me, can start sharing it and running versions of that for themselves.
Yes, perfect. That sounds absolutely brilliant, and I love the idea of doing it online but offline too.
Yes,
so
yes.
it's kind of
It's
like
both.
mixing.
It's both.
Yeah, exactly. And people, where can people find your walks? Because do you do them only in England, or have you got them anywhere else as well? Because I know you were kind of spreading a little bit last summer.
Yeah, right. In England, my walks in the Cotswolds, if people go to ianbanyard.com, they can find my walks that I do. Although the walk I was planning for the 27th of January, I can now only go out and meet one person. So it's not going to be a group walk. It's probably going to be a rush for somebody to go, I'll come with you. So they're slightly restricted at the moment, but I usually run them every month, and there's a few other guides here in the Cotswolds that run them. And so, but if you go to ianbanyard.com, you'll find access to the walks and my guide trainings and things I do. There's another website, which is natureconnection.world. And natureconnection.world has got people, there's more and more people going on there from all over the world, so not just the UK, but everywhere else. And because I've trained guides in lots of different countries, and I'm putting them onto natureconnection.world, so that people can go there, search and say, well, I live in the Czech Republic, and who's the closest person to me? Who's the closest person to me that does these walks? And then those people will eventually all have profiles on natureconnection.world. That's going to be the go-to site for people to find someone, not just natural mindfulness guides, but also any forest bathing guides and forest therapy. I invite all of them to come on there and share what they're doing, because I think it's important. We need a nature-connected world.
Of course we do. Of course we do. It is important, and that's why we are here today as well, to kind of spread the word about it even more. Because now people do have an opportunity to get out, although by themselves or with maximum two. It's still a great way to get out and reconnect, as we were saying. So I would like to kind of give a chance for some questions. If anyone has any, you can ask either Ian or me. And just the last bit, what should we really highlight from everything that we've said? Because we shared quite a lot of information. And I think it's a lot to take in for everyone. So what would be the last sort of thing, I don't know, suggestion for people to really come and do now, because now is the time?
I think it's the intention bit about what I talked about. Right? And I don't just think it, I feel it, and I don't just feel it, I kind of embody this. Intention is really important. It links to mindfulness as well, and I think a lot of my life, I went through my life on automatic pilot. I was just following and doing things, and kind of like a limp mode, but it was the mind that was limped, not the engine. I was still going as fast, but I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't investing attention. And so to me, what is your intention? It's different to a goal. Goals are very fixed and set. And are there to go for. To me, an intention is, I have an intention of experiencing nature for me. I have an intention to go and experience nature for the benefit of others. I have an intention to go into nature to care for it. And it could be your garden, caring for your plants. It could be, feeding the birds, as I've done. So for me, it's the intention is the most important thing. And then transferring that intention, because nature connection is transferable. It's not something you just do in the woods. It's not something you just do in the forest or the park or the garden. Or, it's taking that connection to nature to our fellow natural beings, to other people as well, to our families, our communities, our individual relationships with people, our relationship with ourselves. It's having that natural, mindful connection to life, all life. And so to me, the thing I probably want people to remember, and that I keep, it's the thing I preach all the time, is that when we connect, we care. Because when we disconnect, we stop caring. And so when we connect, we care, and when we care, we protect and we nurture. And there's never been a more important time in my lifetime. I've been around for nearly 60 years now, so it's the first time in my lifetime that I've become so aware of the need for us to care. not just for ourselves, not just for our own families, but to care for community-wide. Because when we care, we protect and we nurture, and we need to protect ourselves, but we also need to protect, the world. We've all been locked down now, haven't we? We've all been locked down, and actually, nature did really well when we were locked down. There was less dead animals on the roads for a start. They could use the roads quite safely without getting mowed over by our vehicles.
And the air.
There was no litter. There was no litter. There was fresh air. There was everything else. But we can't live locked down. We've got to come out. We've got to come out with new eyes, with new ears, with a new sense. We've got to come out as more in touch with our true nature, because then we will protect and we'll nurture and we'll care more for the planet, for ourselves, and for each other.
Yeah. I'm not going to say anymore because you just wrapped it up so beautifully that there is no more to say. It's just so beautiful, and it's so, so true, because what's going on is going to affect everyone. And there is no opportunity then to work on ourselves right now. So, Ian, thank you so much for your time, for everything you shared with us.
Well, thank you for asking me and giving me a platform. I'm assuming you're going to record this and it's going to be available for me to share with my network of people. Is that correct?
It will be. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, lovely. So that's the other thing. That's the other thing people can do. The other thing people can do is share this. It's the easiest thing, isn't it? Share this as widely as you can. If you know somebody who's struggling and could resonate with what we've talked about, or somebody who wants a better connection with nature, or could do with some vitamin nature, as I call it, vitamin N, vitamin nature. Share this with them. Yeah,
exactly. And sharing is caring. Again, we are
absolutely
caring. So let's care for each other, not only ourselves. I've seen it. Yeah, that's okay. But I've got that person on my mind. Maybe it will help them. Perfect. Absolutely brilliant. Okay, thank you so much. There is also the first interview that you can guys watch on my YouTube. So there will be a link. You can go ahead. And Ian, I'm going to wish you a wonderful day. I'm going to wish everyone a wonderful day. Go into nature, reconnect with ourselves, and leave us some comments what your thoughts are about today's situation, how you are feeling about it, what are you doing for yourselves. Are you going into nature, and are you in it or with it, or how are you feeling it after what you heard today? So thank you so much, Ian, once more. I'll catch up with you soon, and take care.
Thank you. I hope so.
Stay healthy and happy.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.